The panel we have first is on growth and innovation. And what I want to do first is to introduce the panel members. They each will make some short comments. They each have a PowerPoint to go with their comments. And then we'll open it up for discussion. I think what we're really interested in doing is coming up with some major themes that come out of this so that we can then think further about measures for identification. Okay, the first panelist will be Tom Reardon, who's the Executive Director of the Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturer Association. He joined BIFMA in 1990 as the Manager of Research and Information and was promoted to Executive Director in January of 1998. I don't think I have to make any comments on how important furniture manufacturing has been in West Michigan. Second speaker will be Jody Vanderwell, who is President of Grand Angels. She holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Colorado and a law degree from Washington University. Previously, she was in legal practice and was corporate counsel and vice president of corporate giving at Herman Miller. And I also worked with her at Calvin, where she was in the development office. She currently also serves on the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's Small Business Resource Network. So she is involved in issues of innovation and new business starts. The third panelist is John Belbach, who is Technology Business Consultant for the Michigan Small Business and Technology Development Center. He has entrepreneurial experience in the Pacific Northwest, and most recently he served as Senior Manager of Strategic and Operational Analytics at Washington Mutual Bank. Then Chris Pluff is Director of Career Services at Grand Valley State University. He is an engineer by training, but then also has a doctorate of education and educational leadership. So he was, what I say, an engineer who saw the light and moved into experiential education. Okay. In his present position, he's responsible for overseeing the production of the university's annual employment report for graduates, as well as overseeing career advising and internships. So he will have some of the data to answer the question that was asked at the end of the last session. So we'll start with Tom.
Thank you, Janelle, and good morning, everyone. Okay, again, the BIFMA stands for the Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association. The entity was established in 1973, almost 35 years ago. We are the trade association representing the interests of office, business, and commercial furniture manufacturers and their component part suppliers. Basically, BIFMA provides a forum for what are typically competitors to get together and work cooperatively and collaboratively on appropriate issues. And so far, the organization and our members have found those appropriate issues to be things around the areas of standards development, statistical market information, how big is the industry, how fast is it growing, things like that. They collaborate their data, and we compile it and publish it back out to everyone so they're all kind of reading from the same playbook. And advocacy. We're the voice of the industry to legislators and regulators when they need that, as well as the ears going back to the membership. It's really our members who set the agenda. Sometimes the ideas and programs trickle down from the board. More often than not, they come up from the grassroots, from the volunteers working on the committees. We'll mobilize some action, and these are the things we want to work around. Most of our labor is volunteer. We're a small staff, a staff of 5 individuals that kind of guide everything, but really the energy and the knowledge comes from the volunteer membership. So if you want to have good participation on a committee, you need to be working on something that the industry is interested in. We are an international organization, members all over the world, about 250 member companies, but primarily have a North American focus. We are, the voice of the industry for the U.S. and for Canada. There is no BIFMA of Canada. We serve that role too. So we're primarily a North American focus, but again, international membership. And as Janelle indicated, I don't have to reiterate how important furniture manufacturing is to the West Michigan economy. We have 3 of the largest manufacturers based here in West Michigan, along with several other smaller ones like Newcraft and American Seating, Izzy Design, etc. General quick overview of the industry. We're familiar with those larger companies, the ones particularly based here, but there are literally hundreds of other furniture manufacturers across the U.S. It is pretty much a upper Midwest kind of industry, heavy concentration in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, also North Carolina, California. There's a spectrum of business, the project business, larger buildings, larger construction projects, typically high volume, numerous hundreds of workstations, tend to be designer influenced, be an architect or a design professional helping spec product. Typically higher end, higher value content to the project, and increasingly those kind of jobs are containing some type of environmental or sustainable criteria. The customers are concerned about the potential emissions, indoor air quality emissions from product, what's the recycled content, things like that. And then on the lower end, the value proposition, customers are more price sensitive. That's their primary motivation. What's it going to cost? And they're trying to minimize the amount of cost. Less likely to be concerned about environmental or sustainable criteria. The extremes are, of course, all points in between. Quick snapshot of industry performance. We had a great run through the 90s. Industry volume peaked at about $13.3 billion for value of shipments, U.S. producer shipments in calendar year 2000. Then we suffered 3 years of consecutive decline, 01, 02, and 03, net 37% decline in shipment value. 04, 05, and 06 were all 3 years of recovery. We expect that continued growth in 07 here, but as of the end of 06, we are still 18% below the high water mark that we hit in calendar year 2000. And there's a number of reasons for that. Because of the kind of the run-up of the 90s, the dot-com bubble that burst, all of those things, there's a lot of used furniture on the market, and we had to work through a glut of that virtually new furniture that was in the system. Landlords suddenly had fully furnished offices to lease that hadn't been there before. There's also a trend toward lower cost workstations. More of the bells and whistles are coming out, and they're kind of value engineering the product, and that coupled with smaller footprints, smaller size workstations, is leading to a lower average cost for the workstation. So even if we're hypothetically, I don't know this is not a fact, but if we're selling the same number of workstations as we were in 2000, that 18% decline could be due to the lower value of the workstation. And imported products are also having an impact. Currently, of all the furniture consumed in the U.S. during a given year, 20% of that is coming from offshore. And that has been increasing by about 1 percentage point a year for the last 10 years or so. Some of the opportunities. If we look at the residential furniture industry, residential furniture is, some estimates say that 50% of that product that's purchased here is produced offshore. So we're somewhat insulated from the impact of imports, not immune, but insulated. And part of that is due to the high degree of customization in furniture, office furniture workstations. A lot of different sizes, colors, fabric options, trim options. All of that high degree of customization doesn't make it very conducive to being produced far away. Also, the schedule demands of buildings. When a corporation wants to move into a new building, they want to do that on schedule. and that also drives a need for the production occurring fairly close to where the product is going to be used. And product innovation. This industry has always been an innovator. Years ago it was ergonomics and has been ergonomic issues and concerns, and now it's in the area of sustainability. I think this industry has taken a real leadership role and a real positive, progressive stance on voluntary environmental issues and sustainability, and I think those kind of innovations are going to serve us well going forward. Some of the drivers of sustainability are a pull from the customer. The U.S. Green Building Council, organizations like this are all driving demand for green production, and the purchases of those builders of those buildings, purchase of the products that go into building, are very concerned about those kind of products and are building those sustainability specs into their bids. Sustainability is just a more efficient way to run your business. The less natural resources you have to use, the more efficient your operation will be, and businesses are learning that. It is the right thing to do, we all know that, and it can be a market differentiator to differentiate you from your competition. Some of the activities that the office furniture industry is involved in is the development of a sustainable product standard. It's a kind of a common measurement tool that the industry can evaluate their products against, kind of a rating system, also a guidance tool, kind of a path to follow. If companies are interested in developing sustainable products, they can use the standard to kind of guide new product development too. We are, I think, all admittedly in the very early stages of the sustainability trend. There's still a lot of work to be done, but again, I'm very proud to be associated with an industry that is taking a very progressive role, I think, in this area. I don't know of many other industries that are taking these kind of proactive steps, developing these kind of standards, and helping to lead the rest of their industries down this path. And again, to summarize, standardization in general, I think, builds in efficiencies for manufacturers. You only have to produce your product one way. Multiple customers aren't coming up with different standards, different specs for you. The industry has one way to do it, and if everybody jumps on board, it's the right thing to do. It makes for a more efficient operation. Sustainability, of course, leads to a more efficient use of your corporate resources and makes you a more competitive player globally and internationally, and again provides that differentiation and marketplace advantage for you as a company against your competition or global competition. I believe that wraps it up.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this Grand Rapids Sustainable Partnership event and to share with you a little bit about Grand Angels and what role we might play in the economic sustainability of our region. It seems to me that in order for us to have an effective Q&A and conversation, it might be helpful for you to know the answers to 4 questions. Who are Grand Angels? What do we do? How do we do it? And how do we intend to have an impact on innovation and growth in West Michigan? We are a membership group of somewhat over 30 qualified investors who invest in early stage businesses in Michigan, but our focus is West Michigan. Our first deal was done in August of 2004. We've invested about $3.5 million in 7 businesses over 2.5 years. Our mission is to invest financial, intellectual, and networking capital to foster the success of growing businesses,
to enhance the economic development of our region and to attract and retain creative talent in this area. To put it in another way, we say that we are trying to remove the barriers to success for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs' success is going to depend on whether they really do have a unique idea, how hard they work, and how lucky they are. There are just a whole lot of factors that you can't predict that really are key to whether a business is successful or not. But three of the significant barriers are lack of capital, lack of experience, and lack of networks. So our members invest capital, they mentor entrepreneurs, and they connect entrepreneurs with their own networks. Angel investing is not passive. Our members make their own investment decisions. They serve on the boards of our portfolio companies. They want to share what they have learned and leave our communities in even better places than they are today. But this is not philanthropy. Our mission will only be achieved if we make good investment decisions. Nationally, 10% of angel investments achieve their intended return, or to use a baseball analogy, are home runs. 30 to 40% will be singles or doubles, and the remainder will fail. In the funding continuum, angels fit in what's designated there as a gap, the gap between family and friends and venture capital. That's typically a range of an investment of $250,000 to $2 million. Not every angel investment needs venture capital funding, but it's a pretty typical step in the growth process. But whether it's through venture capital funding or a sale or an IPO, angels look for an exit in 5 to 7 years. Our goal is to invest in people who have developed innovative solutions to real problems, solutions that people will pay for, solutions that have a unique competitive advantage in the marketplace, solutions that ultimately will result in a good exit for the investors and will create wealth that can be reinvested in the region.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sean Ballback. I'm with the Michigan SBTDC, and I first wanted to thank Community Sustainability Partners and Calvin College for giving me the opportunity to come and speak to you all today. I was asked to speak about growth and innovation specific to early stage technology companies. And so what I thought I would do is I would first talk about the collaboration that's occurring with different partners around the state. And then I would move on to talk a little bit about my organization, the Michigan SBTDC, which stands for Small Business Technology Development Center. And then I would just close with a few closing thoughts. Some of the partners that are working towards pursuing innovation with regard to early stage technology in the state, this really is a true collaboration, and it includes groups across multiple sectors, constituencies, and different types of organizations. Some of the groups include government, universities, regional economic development partnerships, the investor community, the capital community, and of course the entrepreneur as well. Moving to each of these groups individually, I first want to caveat that, of course, I'm not going to be able to address all of the different groups that are working on this effort, but just to highlight a few, there are a number of different efforts at the state, local, and federal level with regard to government efforts to pursue innovation with regard to early stage technology. Just a few include the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, or the MEDC, They are the sort of running point on the strategic initiatives related to economic development in this area. And their signature initiative is the 21st Century Jobs Fund, which, to put briefly, it's a channeling of the tobacco settlement money into the commercialization of early-stage technology companies here in Michigan. Other partners include the U.S. Small Business Administration, or the SBA, and probably most importantly at the federal level is our SBIR and STTR programs. SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research Grants. What these are departments of the federal government, such as NIH, such as Homeland Security, will actually invest directly in very promising early-stage technology with the hope of that technology then being commercialized in the private sector, products then being developed which will be fundamental and instrumental towards the achievement of those departments' missions. So this is really a critical program, one of the most important programs in getting early-stage technology developed and commercialized, because it allows funding to occur where the private sector is not able to fund this type of technology. Other partners include colleges and universities, and I'm not going to go into too much detail with this, but just a few key points here. Michigan, I think, is very fortunate in that we actually do really have world-class research institutions here. The University of Michigan, Michigan State, and I would also add the Van Andel Institute, I think, has a really promising future specific to this area, and I think there are some really encouraging developments with regard to life science research occurring there. Also, Michigan is very fortunate in that we have a strong landscape of undergraduate institutions. We're sitting in one of them now, and I think it's a real strength and an asset to the state of Michigan. Entrepreneurship programs are being developed at the university level. I know Wayne State, Western, Grand Valley State all have either programs or classes devoted specifically to entrepreneurship, and I think that's a very important and promising development. Most importantly, with regard to universities, technology transfer offices. What tech transfer offices do is they actually sit within universities, and what they do is they mine the intellectual property that's being developed at universities with the goal of spinning out that technology into businesses, private sector businesses. Just to give you an indication of what fertile ground this is in Michigan, the combination of three institutions, Michigan State, University of Michigan, and Wayne State, just those three, generate over a patent a day of intellectual property. So this is really important work, and there really is fertile ground to be developed there. Other groups that are critical to this effort include regional economic development groups, and we heard from one really important one here in this area today, the West Michigan Strategic Alliance. Other economic development efforts, regional economic development efforts specific to West Michigan include the Right Place right down the road here in Grand Rapids, and Southwest Michigan First down in Kalamazoo. Two other types of groups of note here include incubators and accelerators. What incubators do is they actually bring promising early-stage companies into their facility with the goal of helping those companies get through that very tumultuous early stage of their development so that they're able to go out, exit the incubator into the community with a strong foundation under their belt. A lot of incubators provide subsidized rent and value-add services as well. This area has three really strong incubators. The Lakeshore Advantage up in Zeeland, the West Michigan Science and Technology Initiative, WIMSTI, here in Grand Rapids is very strong, and the Innovation Center down in Kalamazoo does great work. Another group similar to incubators are accelerators. What they do is instead of actually bringing companies in-house, what they do is they provide either value-add services or funding to help companies hit critical milestones along the development path. One specific example of an accelerator in Michigan is Ann Arbor Spark. Another critical partner in the The development of early-stage technology companies includes the investor community, and I think Jody did a really good job of talking about some of the efforts in that area. I would add just a couple things. I think Michigan is very fortunate in this area. We have a strong angel community, and I would really applaud the efforts that Jody has made, both specifically here in Grand Rapids, but also in collaborating with other angel groups around the state. She's really done a fantastic job in that area. We also are very fortunate in that we have a strong venture capital community, and we have a state-funded pre-seed matching fund that will collaborate with private sector investments as well. So that's just kind of that was a snapshot of a lot of the different partners who are working together and collaborating in this effort. My organization is the Michigan SBTDC. What we are is we're a 25-year-old federal partner program of the SBA. And one of the things that's unusual to the network here in Michigan is that we have the technology accreditation. We received that 5 years ago, and we were, I think, only the second state to receive a technology accreditation. The SBTDC is Michigan's true small business provider. We have over 12 regions around the state, and we have over 100 business consultants that are working with small businesses around the state. One way to look at the work that we do is we are really the sort of the operational, on-the-ground support for the strategic initiatives that the MEDC is laying out. The team that I work on, the technology consulting team, is a much smaller group within the SBTDC. We are a 21st Century Jobs Fund program, and what we do, our mission is really quite simple. Our intent is to provide business expertise and resources towards the commercialization of cutting-edge early-stage technology. The real value that our team brings to the table is the staff that we've built, and we're very proud of the team that we have in place. Right now we have 5 full-time consultants. We're going to be adding 3 more. Some of the experience that we have on our team, each member of our team has strong private sector experience. We all have experience in entrepreneurial, in the entrepreneurial world, and we all have technology backgrounds as well. Some of the specific backgrounds of team members include Anna Bier, who has a master's in physics as well as an MBA, who specializes in SBIR grants. We have the former director of global technology planning for General Motors on our team, and we have an individual who's been who's held multiple CEO positions with software companies as well. So we're pretty proud of the team that we've been able to assemble. And we like to think that this team has been impactful with the work that we've done since we were established in 2003. Just a few metrics that we hope speaks to this is we've logged over 10,000 counseling hours with over 330 companies specific to the technology sector. And the thing that we're most proud of is the companies we've worked with have generated over $42 million in capital formation here in the state. Just a few closing thoughts before I hand it over. The infrastructure for technology innovation is either in place or rapidly under development here in Michigan, and I think it's because of that. I think it's an incredibly exciting time to be in this state. There's a lot of energy and excitement around this type of work, and I think that makes it a very energizing place to be. I would humbly add that I think that we should continue to think of a couple key things as we move forward with these efforts. One would be that we really want to do everything we can to embrace risk-taking, embrace change, as Greg mentioned, and really do everything we can to empower entrepreneurs because they're really going to drive the innovation process. We also want to continue to develop between the ears capital or knowledge capital. As Greg said, intellectual capital is really going to drive growth in this state. And the last thing I would say is that what we're trying to do is not create a culture of innovation, because really Michigan has a long and distinguished history of innovation. I think if we look just in this particular community, there's been countless examples of incredible innovation. I know that the Herman Miller Company is one just example that immediately comes to mind. But what we're trying to do is not create a culture of innovation, but what we're trying to do is capture that long-standing history and apply it to this knowledge economy that's being established. Thank you.
Good morning. My goal this morning is simply to share with you some of the economic impacts of higher education on the greater Grand Rapids community. And I can speak primarily from the standpoint of employment activities, internships, and those sort of activities as I work with those areas at Grand Valley State University. And I do want to share that some of the information that I'm going to communicate here shares information about higher education in general in West Michigan, and I'll have some specific examples from Grand Valley State, but that some of these same activities are happening in the other fine institutions here in the area as well. But some of the areas that are influence and impact through higher education, you can see some of those here. Anything from training and development through graduates and alumni and what they're working in the community, internships, community service and service learning that students have in the community and the value add that they bring to a number of organizations. Employment of the actual members of the institution, but also the secondary employment that goes along with higher education and the services that are needed to support the activities of higher education institutions. Finally, we go into some research and industry projects and consulting that adds value add to area industries, and the cultural enrichment and attraction of new business and talent, that was, as was mentioned by Greg earlier, and the need for that to bring in new talent to the region. So I'm going to share a little bit of information that I pulled together. Real briefly, based on whether it's a community college through a four-year institution and master's and PhD granting institutions, we all are providing services that range anywhere from providing training and development to members of the community that can enhance and enrich the activities and the organizations that you represent, through non-degree seeking activities, continuing education activities, as well as value add organizations within the institution. I'm going to mention one in particular here, the Grand Valley Business Alliance, which I'll describe here in a second. Okay, I pulled together some information here regarding graduates and alumni. These are semi-rough numbers. I have good data from our own institution, but I tried to extrapolate this to look at the other higher education institutions here in West Michigan as well. And what I came up with roughly is I figured there are approximately 8,500 graduates that come out annually from the institutions here within West Michigan. And if we look at an annual salary of $30,000 to $35,000, somewhere in that range, you can see that if half of those members, which is the information that I've found, are living here in West Michigan, that's adding $130 to $150 million annually to the local economy. At Grand Valley, for instance, one of the questions was asked earlier. There's this notion of brain drain. I think some of the statistics that come out from the state of Michigan in general show that there are probably a net exodus of talent from Michigan in general, but from what I found from our own institution and from talking with my colleagues in West Michigan and other higher ed institutions, that we have, in some cases, a net influx of talent into West Michigan based on our higher education institutions. For instance, at Grand Valley, we found in our last couple of surveys of our graduates that we have 88% of our alums are living in Michigan and 69% are living in West Michigan. That compared to the fact that we have approximately half of our students coming from those same counties and within West Michigan would indicate that we have an import of talent into the West Michigan region. Got some data from Calvin College here as well that indicates that we have 50% of the alums living in Michigan, 41% in West Michigan, again showing that there's essentially at least a net no gain or no exodus from the students who are coming into Calvin College as well. So between just those two institutions, between Calvin and Grand Valley, the information that I have shows that there aren't people leaving the area. If anything, there's at least somewhat of a net influx of talent to the region. And if you look at the alums of our 61,000 alums, approximately half of those are living in West Michigan, which could be equated to, again, looking at an average salary, pulling out a number that would indicate what people might be doing from entry level through more experience, $50,000 salary. You're looking at $1.5 billion in annual salary for the area. Another area I mentioned was internships and community service and learning. At our institution, we have approximately 5,000 interns annually. That was from our 2005-06 survey. And if you look at what those interns are adding value to local organizations and whether they're being paid or not paid, and then comparing to what that organization might have to bring in for either consulting services or hiring new people to serve those roles, I estimate that we're saving approximately $20 million for area organizations through the supply of interns and service learning projects. That's just a Grand Valley figure. That's not including the same activities that are going on at Calvin College, at Aquinas College, Hope College, Davenport, Grand Rapids Community College, and so on. Again, we'd put together a figure that of our 6,000 volunteers in service learning in the same 05-06 year, put in 30,000 volunteer hours, which equated to $500,000 in value add to area organizations. This is information that I pulled from a 2002 study, but it was 1999 data, that was put together by the SRI International organization, which was really representing the 15 public universities in the state of Michigan, as well as the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And what they found is that the state's investment of $1.5 billion, and this was again in 99, in the 15 public institutions, equated to $39 billion, or a 12.6% gross rate of product return, or equal to the entire state budget. So that's net value add from that's just again the 15 public institutions. That's not looking at the extensive network of private institutions that we have in the state as well, and the value that they're adding. This is the information when they pulled that data from the show. What is the impact? What are the inputs and the outputs from the system that would indicate and represent what those net economic impacts are? And you can see that the greatest information that's input is primarily income, state expenditures, as well as technology and startup company technology transfer. But then you also have the spending that's going to take place by the employees of the institution, the students in those institutions, as well as visitors to the institutions for various activities. And if you look at the breakdown, you see that the predominant amount is in higher differential spending by graduates. I think that was alluded to by Greg earlier, in that we need to both attract and retain those folks that have that background, because the expenditures they're going to have because of the types of positions they're going to hold, and the growth in economic value input to the community are going to be much greater and actually account for 60+% of that net income to the state. Real briefly here, we looked at Grand Valley had done a study looking at what the net economic impact was of the institution, looking at some of these value indicators. And we found in the 04-05 year that we had $575 million. And again, that's a piece of that $39 billion that was talked about from the 15 state institutions. And if you look at all higher education in West Michigan, just looking at the size of the institutions, this is again kind of a rough estimate by me, but saying if we're at Grand Valley adding $575 million, that we're probably over $1 billion as higher education institutions here in West Michigan. And it also indicates that there was 12,000 jobs added or attributed to the West Michigan economy due to activities from our institution. Again, extrapolating that, I'm estimating over 20,000 jobs added by all higher education institutions in West Michigan. I mentioned earlier some of the other added value. The Grand Valley Business Alliance consists of some of the activities that were mentioned here by our panelists, including the Family-Owned Business Institute, two of the SMART centers, the Michigan Alternative and Renewable Energy Center, and the West Michigan Science and Technology Center, along with the Van Andel Global Trade Center, makes up the activities that you see here. They're serving on several boards throughout the community, deliver services to over 50 counties in the state, but then also over 5,000 individuals per year are getting training and programming from these organizations and offering services to 2,000 companies per year. Again, those are just services being provided by Grand Valley and the organizations that are housed on our campus. Those same activities are going on at the Calvin Colleges and the Hope Colleges and Davenports and so on as well. Again, just one example here again, we have lots of student and faculty projects that are adding value to the community as well. If you look at just one example here, last year with our engineering senior design projects, we had 12 projects that had a capital cost of $165,000 in materials, but the labor that was provided for free to those organizations to produce materials, machinery, technology that is in place and utilized right now in organizations within West Michigan accounted for approximately $2.5 million in saved costs for design and build of those services. That's what I had.
We have plenty of time for questions for the panel. I think you have a rich sense of the multitude of collaborations and investments that are taking place and have a potential in West Michigan. So if you want to just ask any questions, say which panelist you would like to answer the question and speak clearly so they can hear.
Crickets.
Go ahead.
This has got to be a first for somebody. Somebody's got to stand
That's
up
right.
and start about, and I'll start with Chris if we could. You know, the linkage of our colleges and universities is absolutely a critical component. That I know there's an increasing emphasis on colleges and universities, whether it's internships or commercialization, more formal sort of commercialization efforts. From your perspective, or frankly any of the other panelists as well, I mean, do you perceive barriers out there in the community, either from organizations or companies not wanting to engage the resources available from our colleges and universities?
Well, when you say barriers, I think some of it is lack of information and knowledge. I mean, it's part of, I think, the value of sharing some of this information here today is to get some of the word out on some of the activities, the resources that are available at the local institutions that aren't necessarily always taken advantage of. I think one of the other things that goes along with what you're saying is trying to ensure that our institutions are working together from a regional perspective, as Greg mentioned. I think that's been happening at a lot of different levels. I can speak from my own perspective. We joined together as area colleges and universities to put on a lot of our programming to benefit all of our students, not just Grand Valley, but Calvin, Hope, Cornerstone, so forth, to put on events so that we can benefit employers and have them see all of our talent that's available here in West Michigan together, not just say, well, you have to look at us as individual entities and pick and choose necessarily. But as far as barriers, I think there are some hesitancy sometimes because there's a lack of knowledge, understanding, particularly when we think about things such as internships, which I mentioned, which are real value add to organizations. I think there's a lot of just misinformation and not a lack of understanding of how interns can benefit and the expertise and knowledge they're bringing from their new knowledge they're gaining in the classroom, current technologies and so forth they can bring into organizations. But there's a little bit of a trepidation from some organizations in thinking that it's going to take a lot of transition and it's going to take a lot of energy and effort to bring these individuals in. And once they find out how, in most cases, simple and easy it is to do, that they are amazed at how much quickly that they can get that value add to their organization from the expertise within those students as well as the faculty that advise them.
One of the barriers, I think, Greg was talking about, we don't have any Research One universities in West Michigan, so one of the barriers is not understanding that undergraduate institutions can actually, do some of the things that Research One universities do, maybe at a slower scale. So at Calvin, we're trying to develop an enterprise center, which is the front door for people in the community, so that there's just one place to go to be able to access the faculty research and the student internships and all those things that go on. So I think maybe a perception of the environment of the community that those resources aren't there is one of those barriers. Anybody else want to respond to that?
Yeah, I would just add that accessibility is the critical thing. I think that the folks that I work with, entrepreneurs, are typically they have way too many hours in the week that they're already focused on their business. A lot of them are working 100 hours a week, and they would really like the help, but they just don't feel like they have the time to go out and research specific projects or internships that would help them. So the more that we as institutions can make these as accessible as possible, programs like that, I think the better off, at least the groups that I work with, will be in terms of accessing them.
We've actually seen a huge need among entrepreneurs to have access to really good market research data. We don't, within our own organization, have the resources to help people do that, but there are people who do. People like John is a great resource for that, but we've also talked with our sponsoring colleges and universities about trying to establish some kind of a virtual market research center that we can refer entrepreneurs to, that would even be available for existing businesses, small to medium-sized businesses in the region who don't have the resources to pay an outside marketing firm. This continues to be in a conversational stage. I think everybody has as many things on their to-do list as they can get to. It's always a funding and management issue, but there's great interest in establishing something like this that would not only give students a great resume builder, but would actually be a forum for professors to continue some of their research as well.
Just to really quickly add to that, too, I think that would be a differentiator for West Michigan across the state, because that truly is a statewide need. It's probably the #1 need for early-stage companies in terms of trying to commercialize technology.
In addition to the awareness and availability issue, I think there also needs to be some kind of screening process. I mean, quite often when you are dealing with undergraduate interns, they don't have a lot of practical business experience, and it can often take you as long to train them and bring them up to speed on your industry or the task that they're trying to accomplish as it would take to do it yourself. So, some kind of pre-screened or qualified list of appropriate tasks that would be less labor-intensive for the employer, I think would help to facilitate the process, too.
Yes.
Jenny, a question for you. How many of the businesses that Granular has partnered with to support your development have been kind of green-focused or have had sustainability first as a priority in the others?
Probably none of them, if you talk about sustainability on the level we're talking about it here today. But I think all of them have to focus on using minimal resources because that's all they have, and being very streamlined in the way they do their work. We, in fact, our conversation, we do an annual conversation, and ours last fall was on stewardship, which was really trying to raise that issue with young entrepreneurs and to say, if you don't start thinking about stewardship in a really broad sense, which I think includes sustainability early on, you won't do it later. It's not a question of waiting till your business is profitable and then maybe you'll start to think in that perspective. We also think of these people as being the future leaders of our community. They're going to serve on the nonprofit boards. They're going to be the sources of philanthropy. They're going to try to figure out the public education system. So we try to keep that conversation going as much as we can.
I'm Bill Foley with Interface Fabric. I'm intrigued with the panel discussion because I'm part of a rather large company that from a distance I see resources that are out there that seem to be quite targeted for entrepreneurial efforts. My role in our company is new business development, so I'm out there engaging in some of the same activities that you described. I might be naive, but I feel like I don't have access to the types of resources you described because of the size of our company. Is that true or not true? I've researched this I've looked at websites and I go, I don't know how to access this stuff, but I don't think I qualify. If you tell me don't bother looking anymore, that's okay too. What can you tell me on that?
Well, I'll jump in and I'll say that please do bother looking, because I think regardless of whether there are any specific services targeted specifically towards your institution or your organization, it's important to get you networked in with the entrepreneurial activity that's occurring, and there might be opportunities for those companies to collaborate with you, but that you could potentially be service providers to them, they could be service providers to you. So what I would encourage you to do is to start with your local smart zone here, and that's the West Michigan Science and Technology Initiative. Matt Duganer, I believe, is currently the executive director, but you might want to engage with either Rich Cook or Linda Chamberlain, and they would be a good portal into a lot of these services. Also talk with, of course, talk with the Right Place and talk with the West Michigan Strategic Alliance. Those would be great portals into a lot of the different services that are out there, and please do engage with them.
I just want to carry this question a little bit further regarding sustainability. We've heard a lot about potential clean technologies. Anybody in the panel talk about where you see those as maybe business development opportunities that are emerging now that will change our landscape?
So far, we are not getting applications from businesses that are dealing much in clean technology. We've seen some interest from biofuel people, but most of them need millions of dollars, so they're really outside of an angel range right now. But I think there's got to be some stuff happening kind of under the surface that's got to bubble up soon, and I hope we'll see some of those things.
And I would add that clean technology is a really hot field right now, and the problem with it specific to this region is it's incredibly capital intensive, as Jody said. You're seeing a lot of venture capital activity on the coast associated with clean technology, and some of the efforts that are targeting it here in Michigan include the 21st Century Jobs Fund. It's one of the 4 targeted sectors, alternative energy. Of the I think 89 companies and organizations that were funded with the last round, I think only 9 were targeted towards alternative energy. So we definitely are in the very, very early stages of this, but it's gaining a lot of national and international attention, and there's a lot of capital mobilizing around this. So it's a fantastic way to differentiate us as a region if we can get on board with this.
And obviously, there's some of the, I don't know if this is in the same line, but the Ovonics developments up in Greenville. I mean, it's sort of within our region. They're really making a large push and growing in a large way to make Greenville the name Greenville, and understanding that the solar technology that they're using is going to revolutionize how we're utilizing heating sources for our homes and businesses. And they're hoping that'll take off, and it is taking off in Europe and other areas, and hopefully soon in the States.
Hi, I'm Bill Stowell. There's been a lot of studies suggesting that West Michigan has developing a critical mass around sustainable business products and services. But listening to the panel discussion, I'm not sure if it's a push-pull kind of situation. My question to the panel is, who would be the likely entity to promote the further development of sustainable technologies in West Michigan, so it can be a national or international center of excellence?
Well, I'll jump in, and I guess I would say that I don't necessarily know if we want to centralize those efforts. I think the best way for that to work would be, to allow innovation to sprout up organically, and to allow the market really to drive that. But I'd be interested in what others think. But I don't necessarily know if centralizing those efforts are necessarily the right way to go. I think strategically, what the state has done in terms of deciding to invest in this type of effort, I think, is an important strategic step. And I think if we, in terms of regional and local communities, if we take those types of steps as well, but we also want to understand that innovation really does happen organically as well.
It almost seems to be more of a cultural outgrowth. If you look at some of the other areas of the country that are kind of noted for this, Portland, Chicago, some of the other green cities, I don't think it's a strategic effort on anyone's part. It's just kind of their culture and their mindset and a natural outgrowth of that. And I think that's the case here too.
Although I would agree that I think there needs to be an avenue to make that known so that it can attract others who are interested in that sort of activity, and it's not just simply us growing, internally, but also attracting from the outside as well. And I guess I don't have an answer for what that would be, whether it's from the state level, whether it's from some federal level, but I think at least at a state and obviously local, there have to be avenues and ways to make it known that this is a priority, this is a capacity that we have here in West Michigan, and that it can be something to attract others.
There are other people in the audience who want to respond to that question or have another one?
We're not in the area where apparel is manufactured anymore here, but or ever almost. But domestically, we have produced apparel in the past. I'm from the apparel industry, and I wanted to just thank the people who are here who have contributed to our small business becoming clothing. I'm Mark Swain of Clothing Matters. We have grown as large a collection that exists anywhere in the country for a retail establishment of sustainably manufactured apparel. More importantly to us all, I think, in the last 2 years we've focused on giving businesses and nonprofits a chance to put their identity on a piece of the solution, a short sleeve T-shirt or more. And I just want to share that we've just begun, hardly begun, and the first customers have generated savings of almost 7 billion gallons of fresh water by choosing to put their T-shirt or their logo on a piece of sustainably manufactured apparel. And I think maybe, since we've been operating for a while here, West Michigan may be the most sustainably dressed region in the nation. It's not, it's actually probable. And I think in regards to Bill's question, I like the idea of marketing us as who we are, what we are, more tangibly in quantifiable ways that give students, faculty, business people, nonprofits a chance to capitalize on the connectivity that we have available to us. Clothing is a tangible piece of connectivity that identifies, imparts messages every day, and nobody needs another T-shirt, right? But if you can find a T-shirt that has much more added value and carries a message that you actually want to purchase in order to support your favorite nonprofit or to wear your logo, it's a fun idea that I'd like to again congratulate those who participated in our very small beginning, but also invite people who want to wear the talk, walk the talk, to have fun doing so without giving up a thing, adding value. Thank you.
Thank you. Time for one more question, right here.
Kind of piggyback on that. We're talking about a lot of technology, cutting-edge technology. A lot of the infrastructure that goes into supporting the communities with lower tech. What are the portals for people that want to develop businesses that aren't quite on that cutting-edge technology? They're not going to be sexy enough to get the angels to capitalize it. Are there resources for those types of businesses, whether they're green or not?
Yeah. You don't have to be sexy for us to look at you. Now, some of the businesses we fund are very innovative, cutting-edge technology, but we look at a lot of businesses that at first blush look pretty pedestrian, and then you begin to realize what a competitive advantage they bring to the market, and recognize the huge need out there and the fact that people see value and will pay for it. So as long as it's a good business and it'll bring the kind of 35 to 40% annual rate of return that we look for, we'd love to talk.
Thank you.
And I would just add really quickly, the group that I work on, we understand that we're a niche sector, and that will always be the case. And economic development is a much broader topic than that. I would refer you to the groups that I mentioned earlier, WIMSTI, the local economic development efforts, the Right Place, the West Michigan Strategic Alliance, and also the local office, the regional office of the SBTDC as well. They have a wealth of resources at their disposal to help with early stage companies that are non-technology focused.
I think we'll have to bring an end to this panel. Let's thank our panelists for some stimulating thoughts. Because we